Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the SmackDown review for Christmas night 2020, December 25th, 2020. They tried, but at the end of the day, also, I think one of the things that's really interesting in this particular equation is that, I don't think on Christmas night you're going to get anybody that really cares. Two, I'm not completely sold that they can rehab this product without a complete product reset, and I'm not even sure how that worked because they haven't been able to do it in, well, at least 15 years, if not longer. Anyway, lots of title matches, and they really did try on this particular occasion. Steel cage match opens the show, which I think is just goofy. Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman defeating Kevin Owens to retain the title. I think there's a point where maybe giving Owens the belt would actually do good for the company, and I think we've kind of reached that point. Reigns and Owens do have a decent match. They try really hard to tell a decent story, and it is a fresh feeling that they started with a match and not a promo. I wish they would do this more often. Owens and Reigns trading brawling shots early, and they kind of jump the bell. Reigns takes over and tosses Owens into the side of the cage, follows up with a Samoan drop, and then Owens avoids the Superman punch and catches Roman Reigns with DDT. Owens fights back and uses the cage yet again, and then there's a really strong clothesline and a senton. Owens nails Reigns with a series of punches. Reigns avoids pop-up powerbomb and then gets a near fall of his own. They fight on the buckle. Owens shoves Reigns off, sends him to the mat. He hits a frog splash, and then they go to commercial. I like the fact that this match has also been paced to where commercials aren't the center of cutting things off. Back from the break, and there's a power bomb from Reigns for near fall. He follows that up with a clothesline. Owens recovers, hits a pop-up power bomb of his own. Reigns gets back to the match. He attempts a superplex, but Owens counters with a Fisherman Buster from the middle rope, and this is probably the closest near fall of the match thus far. Reigns avoids the stunner, hits a Superman punch for another close near fall. Reigns gets frustrated, tosses Owens into the side of the cage, and he locks on the guillotine choke, and Owens needs to get to the ropes, and then Owens fights back and chokes Reigns on the top rope and breaks the hold. They go to another break. Owens hits a stunner right before that, and back from the second break, Owens tries to escape. Reigns cuts him off. Cole claimed that Owens is trying to escape because he threw everything at Reigns and nothing worked. That was a great way to bury a babyface. They fight on the top rope. They trade shots, and then there is a follow-up with a Swanton Bomb. Reigns gets his knees up and hits a counter, and then we see a spear. I almost feel like this is a pay-per-view level match, and I commend the guys for working hard. Reigns is in shock that the spear didn't work, and he's starting to get in his own head a little bit. Reigns tries to walk out the door. Owens grabs him and then regains control. Owens tries to escape. Uso runs down, cuts Owens off, and Owens knocks him down. Reigns drags him back, and Owens goes for the pop-up powerbomb. Reigns hits the Superman punch. Reigns hits a spear. Owens fights back again and hits a stunner. Owens tries to walk out the door. Uso handcuffed Owens to the cage. Owens tries to escape. Can't. Reigns realizes this and walks out the cage door to retain the title. Probably one of the better matches in a long time on SmackDown. I don't like the finish because, well, A, it makes the champion look like he's pathetic, and B, I think at this point, even a hot shot to a babyface for a minute is worth it because Reigns feels like he needs a chase, even if it was a pop for 2 weeks. And I'm not a hotshot booker by nature, but this Reigns feels stale, and he feels partially stale because he doesn't have that many challengers. Anyway, Colin Graves noted that Uso helped Reigns retain the title twice in a week. Um, Charlotte Flair and Asuka come out. Then there's doing the interruption deal. Flair and Asuka make their way out. They talk. Bayley interrupts, makes her way to the ring. She said they're impressive, but she's even better than they are. And Bayley notes that she's the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion in history. Sasha Banks music hits and she comes out. Banks asks Bayley if she wants to talk about the current champion and raise the belt in the air. Bianca Belair comes out. She runs down all that she's done. And Carmella comes out. She says everyone wants to look at her. Banks shoves her and gets up in her face. Triple threat elimination match for the Women's Tag Team Championship. Charlotte Flair, Asuka defeat Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, and Bayley and Carmella. What weird teams. Match was fine, but I really, like, it just shows how disorganized the women's division is right now, which makes me sad because they probably are more talented than they've ever been in terms of what they have available, but it's kind of sad. This is elimination style. Bayley and Carmella gain control early. Carmella and Asuka face off, which is just ridiculous. Asuka, in theory, should decimate Carmella pretty quickly. Carmella's being vain about the whole thing. Banks tags herself in and tackles Carmella. Carmella distracts Asuka and Bayley. Bayley hits the Bayley to belly for near fall. They go to commercial. Bayley is in control when we return to commercial. Asuka fights back and hits a missile dropkick for near fall. Heels isolate Asuka, cut her off, and Flair gets knocked off the apron. Bayley then shoves her force in and slows the pace down with a chin lock. Asuka breaks free, has no one to tag. She tags Belair. Belair goes nuts. Gets a couple near falls. Carmella makes the save for her team. Belair gains control. Banks hits the Meteora on Bayley to eliminate Bayley and Carmella from the match. At least they're kind of continuing that feud. They've dropped the ball with that big time. Banks is in control. Flair takes over. Flair locks on the figure eight. Banks refuses to tap. I would love to see Flair and Banks again. It's been a while. Belair then uses her hair to help pull Banks to make the tag. Belair hits a handspring moonsault for near fall. Flair applies the figure eight leg lock, and then Banks hits a Meteora for a save. I wish the Meteora wasn't wasted like that. Banks gets knocked off the apron and falls into Reginald ringside. Bayley and Carmella both interfere after being eliminated. Belair is firmly in control. Flair hits natural selection on Belair for the win. Backstage, we get the Street Profits talking about Charlotte's return, and they go down the lineup. They've overheard Sami Zayn trying to figure out who authorized the Lumberjack match later, and then Sami Zayn yells at the Street Profits. Zayn changed his mind. Street Profits said they have a gift for him. They pull out a t-shirt and that says, "I am the Intercontinental Champion." Zayn fakes a laugh and walks away in frustration. Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso, with Daniel Bryan basically saying he's cutting back on wrestling when his contract ends. I don't know that this is the best use of him, but it is what it is. I'd give him one more run with something meaningful, but that's just me. Anyway, so Bryan and Uso do have a decent match. Uso dominates the early part, and Bryan fights back for the win. I'm not necessarily sure either if you're pushing Jey Uso, who's been around for 10 years, by the way, maybe longer, why you are having him lose to Bryan here. Bryan makes his way. Jey jumps in from behind. They go to a break, and they continue the match. Uso's in control, and they fight around ringside. Hard strikes and chops in the corner. Bryan makes a comeback, hits a Samoan drop for near fall. Uso tries to splash. Bryan gets out of the way. Bryan hits the dropkick in the corner. Bryan fights back and hits a backdrop on Uso. That's weird because you barely see backdrops anymore. Uso is injured. He gets injured on the fall. Bryan attempts a dive, but Uso moves. And Bryan crashes into the announcer's table. Too much use of the announcer's table for my taste. On the average wrestling show, they fight to the top turnbuckle. Bryan takes over and hits a back suplex. And we go to another commercial. Commercials are back to being poorly placed. Bryan fights back, hits the yes kicks, and Bryan goes for a running knee. Uso counters with a couple super kicks. Uso follows up with a splash, but hurt his leg. Uso then goes for the splash again. Bryan gets the knees up and applies the label lock. That goes into a half crab on Uso's bad leg from the ankle injury earlier. And Bryan gets hit with a headbutt. Bryan avoids a super kick and hits a running knee for the win. I'm not against Bryan winning, but I don't think this is who he should be beating unless you're really going to do something to push him out through the end. Anyway, Kayla Braxton interviews Daniel Bryan. She asks what's next. Since issues with Jey Uso seen behind him, Bryan noted that he's never won a Royal Rumble, and he announced he's entering the 2021 Royal Rumble. That'd be interesting if he actually did win. Kind of be fun. Anyway, Sami Zayn approaches, and he's angry. He's angry at Bryan for having to defend the title, and he knows he has something to do with it. Bryan makes fun of Zayn and says that he didn't get a PS5. Lumberjack match. Big E defeats Sami Zayn to win the Intercontinental Championship. Hopefully they do something with the belt now. Anyway, they redo the Sammy Awards, which is just goofy. Big E has the advantage early. Zayn takes over, send him to the corner. Big E goes to the floor. Heel Lumberjacks beat on Big E for a while, and then the babyface Lumberjacks do nothing. Heel Lumberjacks go after Big E a second time. Zayn scores an almost victory. Corbin and the Knights of the Lone Wolf attack Big E. Face Lumberjacks do nothing again. Zayn hits a dive onto Big E. Dives are pointless with no people. Anyway, then we go to a commercial break, and Zayn throws his shirt at Big E, charges him. Big E catches Zayn, hits an overhead belly-to-belly suplex. Zayn fights back, attempts a kick, and there's a Uranagi by Big E. Big E sets up the big ending. Zayn runs out of the ring. Lumberjacks throw Zayn back in. Zayn pokes Big E in the eye and rolls him up for near fall. Zayn climbs the top rope. Big E cuts him off. They do a sunset powerbomb for a near fall. Big E avoids the haluva kick a second time and hits a spear on the apron. I hate the spear on the apron spot. It always looks clunky. Anyway, the Lumberjacks throw Big E back into the ring. All the Lumberjacks start fighting. Zayn tries to sneak off. Apollo Crews notices and tosses him back in the ring. Street Profits lead the face Lumberjacks, grab Zayn, carry him back to the ring. Big E hits all his stuff and hits a splash on Zayn. Big E then hits the big ending, wins the Intercontinental Championship on Christmas Day 2020. Big E celebrates and shakes the hand of Corey Graves at ringside. He celebrates with his face friends. Zayn watches from ringside. He's upset. They lift Big E up on their shoulders. Confetti falls from the ceiling. They push this as one of the biggest moments in Big E's career, and they close the show. Ultimately, not a bad program, but at the same time, completely skippable. But for a Christmas night show, well, I can't say completely skippable. The cage match to open the show was worth watching. Everything else kind of feels anticlimactic, but at the same time, I think it's because most of the talent in my mind has already been killed off, so I don't really care what happens, and that's basically what WWE has done. They've taken someone in me who's a 31-year fan and made me not care about most of their talent. Anyway, we'll be back with more of the Mid-South series. We're starting 1984. Join us for that. Thank you for making 2020 so great. 2021 going to be awesome. Hopefully get back to interviews too. But anyhow, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.